The news of Hulk Hogan's passing at the age of 71 rocked the wrestling world and sent a tidal wave of grief across generations of fans and peers who grew up watching the man who redefined sports entertainment. Among those most profoundly affected was wrestling legend Ric Flair, the Nature Boy, who shared a brotherhood with Hogan that spanned over 5 decades. To Ric Flair, this wasn't just the loss of a colleague, a wrestling icon, or a fellow Hall of Famer. It was the loss of a friend, a brother in arms, someone who stood by him through some of the darkest and most triumphant moments of his life. Flair was among the first to break his silence on social media, following the announcement of Hogan's death. He wrote with unmistakable emotion, "I am absolutely shocked to hear about the passing of my close friend Hulk Hogan. Hulk has been by my side since we started in the wrestling business. An incredible athlete, talent, friend, and father. Our friendship has meant the world to me. He was always there for me even when I didn't ask for him to be. He was one of the first to visit me when I was in the hospital with a 2% chance of living, and he prayed by my bedside. Hulk also lent me money when Reed was sick. Hulkster, no one will ever compare to you. Rest in peace, my friend." Those words were more than just a statement. They were a window into the heart of Ric Flair, a man who had known loss, survival, and the complexities of brotherhood in an industry built on personas and performance. Hogan and Flair had often been portrayed as rivals in the ring, two sides of the same coin. Hogan was the all-American hero in yellow and red, and Flair was the flamboyant, diamond ring-wearing villain with a swagger unmatched. But off-stage, beyond the bright lights and roaring crowds, there was a deep bond built on respect, loyalty, and shared battles, both personal and professional. Ric Flair and Hulk Hogan first crossed paths in the late 1970s, a time when both were climbing towards superstardom in their respective promotions. Hogan became the face of WWE, then WWF, while Flair was the NWA's crown jewel. Fans fantasized about a dream match between the two long before it became a reality. Their respective legacies were often intertwined by comparisons, debates, and dreams of what if. Yet, while their professional personas were rivals, their private lives painted a far different picture, one of admiration, friendship, and a shared understanding of what it meant to carry the weight of greatness. In interviews over the years, Flair always acknowledged Hogan's impact on the wrestling world. He once said, thoughtful, there would be no boom in the 1980s without Hulk Hogan. He put butts in seats, made wrestling global, and turned it into something bigger than we'd ever imagined. While Flair was known for his technical brilliance and theatrical promos, he never denied that Hogan's magnetism was unmatched. As news broke of Hogan's passing, Flair took time away from scheduled appearances, reportedly cancelling several meet and greets and media interviews. According to those close to him, Flair was devastated and heartbroken, locking himself away in his Charlotte home to privately mourn his friend. One insider stated, "Sad, Ric's lost a lot of people in his life, but this one cut especially deep. Sighs, he always said Hulk was one of the constants in a world that kept changing. The two shared not only a professional bond, but a deeply personal one." Hogan had been there during some of the most painful chapters of Flair's life. When Flair was placed in a medically induced coma in 2017 and given a 2% chance to live, it was Hulk Hogan who flew in to be by his side. He prayed. He comforted Flair's family. He didn't leave until he knew his friend would make it through. Flair recalled that moment in his tribute, one that Hogan never spoke publicly about, but one Flair never forgot. Then there was the tragedy of Ric Flair's son, Reed, whose battle with substance abuse ended in his untimely death in 2013. Hogan reached out then too, not with public statements or cameras rolling, but with quiet support. He lent Flair money when medical bills mounted, and his emotional support gave Flair strength during a time when the world seemed cold and broken. Thoughtful, he didn't do it for show, Flair once said. Whisper he did it because he was my brother. That's the kind of man he was. Flair's tribute also touched on their shared laughter and memories. The tours, the wild nights, the endless hours spent in locker rooms and on airplanes, the ribbing, the jokes, the long drives listening to classic rock or talking about their kids. Hogan often referred to Flair as the man, long before that phrase became meme-worthy. Flair, in return, would often say, "Hogan changed the game, and the rest of us, we had to catch up." Their in-ring chemistry was undeniable. When they finally clashed in WWE during the early 90s, it felt like the meeting of gods. Their matches in WCW years later, especially during the NWO era, reignited that rivalry for a new generation. Behind the scenes, they shared ideas, consulted each other on character changes, and always protected one another's image. There was no ego when it came to their legacy together. They knew the value of the story they were telling. As fans and media reflect on Hogan's career, Flair's tribute stands out as the most heartfelt and personal. It's a reminder that behind every superstar, there's a human being. And behind every rivalry, there's often a friendship forged in shared pain, sacrifice, and triumph. Flair has since announced that he will be attending Hogan's memorial, which WWE plans to host later this month. Sources close to Flair say he has requested to speak at the event, believing it to be his duty to tell the world who Hulk Hogan was, not just as an icon, but as a man. Determined, I want people, Flair said in a private message shared through a representative. The man who held my hand when I was dying, the man who checked in on my kids, the man who loved his fans more than he loved himself. The wrestling world is forever altered with the loss of Hulk Hogan, but Ric Flair's tribute ensures that the memory of Terry Bollea, the man behind the muscle, will live on in stories, tears and roars of woo that echo with love. In their last public interaction earlier this year, Hogan and Flair shared a stage at a wrestling convention. They embraced, exchanged laughs, and posed for photos. Huckle. Hogan put his arm around Flair and said, "We're still here, brother," to which Flair replied, "Thoughtful, we've been through it all, man. Through it all." Now, as Ric Flair says goodbye, the pain is raw, but the gratitude is greater. Sad, I lost a friend, a brother, a warrior. There will never be another Hulk Hogan. Chuckles. I loved you, man. I always will. And as the world continues to mourn the loss of the immortal Hulk Hogan, it's Ric Flair's voice, shaken but steady, that carries the deepest truth. The legends we grow up with don't really die. They live on in the hearts of those who knew them best. In every memory, in every roar from the crowd, and in every moment they changed lives far beyond the ring.